Hi everyone, welcome to another Teach to Code with Professor V, the Java edition. So today I'm going to go ahead and get away from the pre-algebra class. I think it was nice making all these methods and whatnot and really seeing and expanding on how to do some math within it. Now for this next video series, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a medical intake form. So something that maybe the receptionist at the hospital would start entering in, right? So it'll take data like the first name, your last name, your month, date, and year for your date of birth. Then it's also going to have the weight and the height of the person, and it will calculate the body mass index. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to go ahead and create a new class, or a new project rather. It'll be the Java application. I'm going to call this medical intake. I guess I should just call it form. Technically it's a J form, but you know, the user, if we were to give them our program, wouldn't really care if it was a Java form or what kind of form, right? They would just be interested that they can input the data and do what they need to do. So alright, so we're not going to do much in this class today. What we are going to do though is create another class right off the bat. So let me go ahead and find this. Make sure you right click on the package. We're going to do a new Java class. And we're going to call this one patient. So patient. Okay. So inside of our patient class, like I say, we're going to have to think of what the form's going to store. So, you know, we're not building the graphical user interface today, but we are going to create the thing that's going to interact with the graphical user interface, right? The class. So we won't really need a constructor, but we, as always, we need to start with some variables, right? So let's go ahead and start with our first name variable of type string. We'll do another variable, call that last name. We're going to go ahead and do another variable. So it might be weird to be doing the month, date, and year as strings, but essentially, unless we're going to calculate the age, right, we can just stick with month, date, and year, you know. Public string date. Because, yeah, if we were, you know, doing something where we wanted the person's age, then these should probably be doubles. Now, of course, we could always parse them to doubles later, so maybe that's another feature we could add on later. So now here we're going to do a double height. I'm going to set these equal to 0. Just in case something goes wrong and the user forgets to input one of them and we get 0. Okay. So these are going to be our what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 variables we're going to work with. So we'll be making probably 7 inputs for our form, right? 7 text boxes when we get there. So now we're going to do a bunch of get and set methods. Pretty much the bread and butter of programming, right? So, we're going to start off with public void set name. And the reason why set name is going to be void is because all we want to do is set the name, right? We don't need to return anything. But we do need to pass a parameter in here. We're just going to call it first name. And now this part gets a little bit confusing for a lot of people. I know when I was first starting programming, I didn't understand it. But you're taking this variable that you initialized and you're equaling it to the first name inside of the whatchamacallit, inside of the, not the argument, gosh, see now I'm going to be drawing a blank. It's an argument when we pass it through a parameter. There we go. So whatever the user puts in this parameter in the medical form class, it's going to store it within this variable and first name of patient. If that makes sense. I know it's kind of a tricky concept, but so public. So this one we do need as a string type because we're going to get the name. Now we don't pass any parameters into the method because we're just simply needing to return whatever is in the name, right? Oops. And actually that shouldn't be get name because, right, we have a first name and a last name. So a lot of times with data, if you guys haven't done databases yet, you need to keep things in the third normal form, right? There should never be a box just name, right? It should always be separated, first name, last name. And even look at this, I messed up here, so sorry about that, guys. So make sure it's set first name and get first name, because we need to be able to differentiate first name and last name. Alright, so now we're going to keep doing the same thing. So this one's going to be set last name. We're going to set it to a string data type. We're also just going to call it last name. And kind of the reason why you name these the same variable is because when the user is like typing it in the code, right, it'll display last name, you know, it's telling you what the parameters should be. So anyways, so this dot last name is equal to last name. So whatever's in this parameter that the user, well, in the argument actually, because it'll be the argument when the user's using it, it should be stored in the last name of this class, this dot last name, right? Okay, so public string get last name. And it's really good to be explicit with all your methods so you really know what each of these is doing. So return this dot last name. I don't even think you need this dot last name in these, but it's become a habit, I guess. Okay, so we're going to keep going. So now we need to do, other than last name, we have the month, date, and year, right? So same concept. Public void set month, right? And then this is going to be a string. We'll call the parameter month. We will call the variable, the global variable here, and we will store it within, well, we'll take whatever the argument is and store it into the variable. Sorry, saying stuff a little backwards. Alright, so now public string get month. We don't need to pass a parameter because for the get month we are trying to return the month, right? We just need to get that month that's stored in that value. Okay, so let's keep going. It's a little bit tedious, but you know, these are, like I say, really the bread and butter of programming. You'll see how this interacts with the graphical user interface, and it's really beautiful how they interact. Going forward, I'm really trying to build something that's more practical, right? It gives you some kind of experience. You know, I was thinking maybe an inventory app would be the next one. That would be fun, you know, some kind of app that can store the inventory. My goal for this also is to have it store the data within a file for us, right? So we might also be able to populate the form using that file, you know. But let's take baby steps to get there. So one thing at a time, right? So public string get date. We don't need a parameter. We just need to return the date variable. Yeah, see, I don't need to put this dot date for it. I guess just to stay with the flow, I'm gonna just type this in there for now. But I just know you don't need to type this. It's I guess something I learned in school, so I just keep doing it. Alright, where am I? Oh, I lost my cursor. Okay. So public void set year now, alright? Again, the year is a string. If we want to do math with it later, we can set it to an integer and do some subtraction, right? But anyways, so this dot year is going to be initialized to year. The parameter public, let me scroll down so I don't lose you guys. String get year. That's no parameter. We're just going to simply return the year. Now we're finally on the height and weight, right? So I'm just going to do a little thing here, comment rather than a thing, and I'm going to say height is in inches. Is inputted, right? Let's say that in inches. So let the user know, you should be inputting this in inches. So public void set height. So since we're setting it, this will be of a type double, right? That's what we said our global variable is going to be. So is equal to the parameter, whatever the user passes into this method. Alright, we are almost there, guys. I remember going kind of crazy doing all these methods, but now I really see what my professor was talking about. These methods are so valuable, the get and set methods. Really powerful. So simple, but so powerful, Really the bread and butter. Alright. So then, I'm also going to say weight is inputted in pounds, right? Okay. Now we could do metric, so if you're a metric person, using the metric system, you can still copy this method that we're doing. You just got to look up your specific formula. I don't think you guys have to times by 703. We have to adjust ours, so using the standard system. But anyways, so public void set weight. Since we're setting something, we do have to have a parameter intuitively. And then we'll say this dot weight is equal to weight. Alright. And you'll notice how it doesn't highlight it unless I click on it. But I like that. I like that the IDE tells you, which weight is which one. Because I remember learning this stuff and just sometimes feeling a little confused, How come we're using weight twice, Now it all kind of is crystal clear. It's not clear as mud. So anyways, return the weight. That's all we have to do. Again, I'm not putting this, so I'm just going to put this to be consistent. We do not need it, but, since I've already done it, I might as well keep doing it, right? So even here with year, maybe it isn't my standard, I don't know. Going between all these different languages sometimes. Okay, so these are all our get and set methods, and now we need one more method for the body mass index. So let's go ahead and do this. So we are going to return a double with our method, so we're going to make sure it's a public double. We're going to get body mass index. So we're also going to make this a get method because we're getting something. So now we're going to say double. We're going to initialize a variable. Index. We'll also set it equal to 0 in case the user does something silly that's not allowed. So if weight is greater than 0 and height is greater than 0. So we're going to make sure, they're not putting in 0 for weight and height. If we have 0 weight and height, or even worse, a negative number, right? It's going to be bad. So, okay, so if these are greater, we can actually do the formula. So body mass index is going to be equal to weight divided by, now I'm going to put parentheses here to do order of operations. I want to do my height squared before it divides, right? If I don't do the height squared right there, what's going to happen is it's going to take one of the weight number, it's going to divide it by the height, and then it's just going to screw things up for me. So I want to make sure the height squared, so it's weight divided by height squared. Since we are in the standard system, you should multiply that by 703 at the end. Okay. So pretty simple formula, actually. Now, else, so if the user does enter less than 0, 0 or less than 0, let's go ahead and print out something for them for now. Of course, when it's in a form, we might have to come back and change this, because we won't be using the standard out, right? We'll be using the actual form, so, you know, we'll get to that when we get there too. So weight and height must be greater than 0. I don't know, that's decent error for now. At least we're printing something out, right? Now we still have an error in this method. It's angry at us because we haven't returned a type double, right? We promised it. We have to have a double returned, so body mass index. And that's how come we initialize the variable, because if the user does screw up and it hits this, right, no matter what, it's going to return the body mass index, right? It's going to come out of these brackets and it'll print 0, right? It's going to say there's an error here, you know. So 0 is what you get. Alright. So far that's going to be our patient class. The only thing I really wanted to test when we're working on this is actually, you know, using the body mass index to make sure that it's working properly. I know all the other get and set methods will work perfect, so what we're going to do here is do patient, I guess I'm just going to call it patient 1, if we must, equals new, capital P, patient. We didn't make a constructor, so it's an implicit constructor, so you don't need to pass any parameters in there, arguments rather. So what we can start doing is patient 1 dot, since we have our object now, we have access to the variables, and we have access to all the get methods, so all the methods, right? So I think what I need to do honestly is make the variables private. So we shouldn't have access to the variables in this class, but we'll do that next time. So let's see, so what did I want to do? I wanted to set height, so the height's in inches, so I don't know, we can do 60 inches, that's 5 feet, right? So we'll say our patient's 5 feet tall. Patient 1 dot set weight. We'll say the patient is 120 pounds. And then what we're going to do is go ahead and print something out. So we're just going to do a simple print ln. We're going to say BMI. And then we're going to say patient 1 dot get body mass index. So now let's just go ahead and run this and make sure it doesn't blow up on us. So 23.43333. So cool, awesome. We got us a body mass index. Everything worked out appropriately. You can definitely change the height and the weight, right? So maybe they're 150 pounds at 5 feet. Let's go ahead and try that. So that would be a body mass index of 29. I can't remember what I was reading. I think 24 is a decent rating or something like that. We'll explore that more. I can't say I'm like a medical scientist, but let's add 6 inches to that, right? So 5 feet 6 inches. Let's see what happens there. So 24. So that would seem appropriate, and we could do that check if you guys would like. A whole body mass index calculator could just be a program in itself. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is about our first 20 minutes. Next one, we're going to go ahead and try to design the form. Depending on how long that video is, we will maybe just design the form, and then the next video will actually connect the patient class to the medical form and see what problems we find and how we can incorporate this stuff, right? But I think it'll be fun because, this is a program that will give you some real experience, and if you guys have any comments or, suggestions, like maybe making a addition game, subtraction game, kind of like we did, but with a graphical user interface, right? A window, something that pops up and does stuff, right? Because nobody really interacts with the console like this, right? Nobody, the standard out's beautiful, it's nice, it's fun, but, programming the window, sending stuff to a file, interacting with the database, my idea is really to focus on a full program from now on, a lot of these other videos have done really well, but I think these applications will help you guys even better understand programming in the real world, right? Inventory, maybe some kind of invoice, some kind of payroll program. I don't know, any suggestions I'm open to. Just leave them in the comments below. Other than that, I hope y'all have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.